There's nothing in life that you can't walk off. Isn't that a great saying?
That's what Hippocrates wrote, actually. He said, if somebody comes in and they have bad humors, which translates bad mood, go for a walk. The studies really have shown getting exercise in is as good as taking an antidepressant.
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast, hosted by Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race, and brought to you by Wild Health.
We are talking about overcoming obstacles. The same way we teach people to get over obstacles on the course, we will teach you here on the Spartan Up podcast to get over obstacles in your mind.
Get fully personalized healthcare based on your DNA, biometrics, and blood work with Wild Health, the official healthcare provider of Spartan. Go to wildhealth.com and use the code Spartan10 to save 10%. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Trifecta. Trifecta delivers delicious, macro-balanced meals directly to your door. Use the code Spartan at trifectanutrition.com to save 40% off your first meal plan order. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by the Exogen Ultrasound Bone Healing System. Exogen is a non-invasive treatment option that can help heal your broken bone. To learn more, visit exogen.com/Spartan.
Joe De Sena, CEO and founder of Spartan and the Spartan Up podcast. I got a big one here today. This is Dr. John Ratey. He is a professor at Harvard. He's written he's written a bunch of books, but he's written a book called Spark, which for the first time ever is diving deep into the science of exercise. Now, he and I are going to argue over this because I'm going to say, well, listen, all the benefits and everything around exercise has been understood by a few of us for thousands of years. But John, you just said something interesting, but I guess nobody really studied it.
Yeah, you're right. You know, and I say in the first medical textbook written by Hippocrates in 300 BC, he wrote about exercise as a treatment for depression. So yes, we've known about it, but we didn't know about it. You know, people still to this day don't get the connection. But exercise is the best way to turn our brains on, to make them help us manage our moods, our stress, our anxiety, and improve our cognition the best that we know how to do.
You know, we had a terrible thing happen to in our family a few months ago, and I said to the family members, I said, listen, if you can get the husband, wife to start exercising right away, I think it would help. And to your point, I got viewed as as Jack LaLanne or right, like Suzanne Summers with a thigh mask. Oh, Joe's trying to get us to exercise, and I'm thinking, no, I'm not. I'm trying to get these folks to kind of snap out of the trauma they just went through. Is that the right way to think about it?
Yes, exactly. Because the right way is you're telling them to access all the brain stuff they can. All the parts of their brain that are involved, and to help change the so much we do when we exercise in terms of the brain. We change the blood flow, all that kind of stuff, and change the dynamics of the different parts working together. But you also change the biochemistry, the nerve cell, the communication between one nerve cell and another, which is exactly what we use. What we use our antidepressants and our psychiatric medicines for. That's why me as a psychiatrist wrote this book, because it was like, wow, we're using all this medicine, but we also have movement, exercise. And you guys in the Spartan Race, I know a little bit about it and haven't done it, but I've had many friends and patients who have. You have to exercise, and you also have to think while you're exercising and plan and imagine and anticipate the height of being human. You know, that's what our big brains are about. So I love the opportunity to get on this podcast with you and talk about the Spartan Race. I can't tell you how many people I've come across who've done it, who do it, and has led to, in one case, massive changes in this boy's life.
By the way, people are going to think that I hired you to say that, and we've probably come across 3 or 4 dozen doctors that have literally prescribed Spartans or Tough Mudders or some of the crazy events we put on. And most of the population thinks that we're just crazy, and why would you possibly want to crawl under barbed wire or climb over a wall? And I want you to push back, because this is the first time we're meeting, and I'm going to tell you my theory on why we did this. I had made a little bit of money so I could pay my bills, and I wanted to do something with a higher purpose, kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? I was looking for self-actualization. And I said, I want to help change lives. I saw my mother do it in the 1970s, getting people into yoga and meditation. I want to change lives. We came up with Spartan. And what I found was that if a human being didn't have a date on the calendar, if they didn't have a purpose, something to get after, maybe it was a bodybuilding competition. Maybe they're getting married and they want to look good in their wedding dress. If they didn't have something on the calendar, they didn't do the work.
Absolutely, and it's like a destination. I mean, when you're out walking or running or biking or going from place to, just to put on steps on your Fitbit, for instance. If you have a destination, if you really have to get somewhere, you're going to make it easier on yourself. You're going to go quicker, not think about it, just think about the destination. Just like you say, having the scheduled event. And what you guys and what Spartan does, and even Tough Mudders. I trained with the very first woman who was a Tough Mudder, who won the Tough Mudder, out in Ojai, California, and never had heard about Tough Mudders before I met her, and she was a Tough Mudder, let me tell you.
So my theory isn't crazy. My theory of giving people a purpose so that they do the exercise. Now, Hippocrates, you said, spoke about it, wrote about it. What did we learn in your book that maybe Hippocrates didn't know?
Well, we learned, about depression, for instance. You change the brain chemistry much like our antidepressants do. In fact, the studies since the 90s really have shown that exercise, getting exercise in is as good as taking an antidepressant. And I detail in my book why, because I talk a lot about the neuroscience of exercise and what all that it does. And that's changed. I mean, I wrote it 11, 12 years ago now, and that's changed. It's amplified. Nothing that I said there is disputed, but so much more we know, many more things that we have unpacked in terms of what exercise does to the brain, because basically our brain evolved to help us be the best movers that we could be in difficult and different changing situations. That's what our big brain evolved to help us do, to manage, to change our tactics, to remember what we want to do, to remember what our goal is. You mentioned the putting a destination on. The goal is so important for us, and we need to keep that in mind as we're going through life, but certainly when we're exercising and going on a race or whatever.
I have a few sayings I've picked up along the way that I kind of like, and one of them I heard was, "There's nothing in life that you can't walk off." Isn't that a great saying?
Well, yes, and that's what Hippocrates wrote. Actually, he said, if somebody comes in and they have bad humors, which translates bad mood, he said, go for a walk. And if they come back and they still have a bad mood, he says, keep walking. Go for another walk. Just keep moving. The idea is you yourself, and most people do, that when they're moving, they think better. And we have. The Spark is all about the evidence to show how we think better and why we think better. And schools that have exercise in their lives, they're much better students, etc. But because they're calmer, they're more focused, but also their brain is working better. And a way to prevent aging brain, man, there's nothing like exercise.
So I didn't tell you, years ago, many years ago, 35 years ago, I started, 38 years ago, I started a swimming pool cleaning business. My first customer was a mob boss. And very quickly, over a decade, I built a pretty big business. I had 700 customers. So,
wow.
So every week, I'd be sitting there cleaning pools. I looked at a lot of swimming pools, and I kept thinking, a pool is about 20,000 gallons of water. The human body is about 10, 13, depending on your size, gallons of water. And we have a pump and filter, and a swimming pool has a pump and filter. And I thought, if I shut the pump off in a swimming pool with 20,000 gallons, the water starts to turn green. If I don't clean the filter, the water starts to turn green. If I threw a bunch of French fries and coffee and cheeseburgers in the pool, it would start to turn green. And I said, man, we have to run our bodies like a clean swimming pool. Is that crazy?
No, not crazy. I mean, it's a good point, because get into technicalities, but when you are exercising, when you're stressing the nerve cells down to the basic little nerve cells, that we have 100 billion of those suckers. When you stress it, it has to deal with all the dross, all the leavings of what you've done by using energy in the cell. And then it builds up what I call the janitorial service of the cell. And it builds more, and you make more than you need. So later on, you have more antioxidants, more enzymes to repair inside the cell itself. And this generates a healthy, wealthy brain cell that is doing what it's going to do and supposed to do, which is to grow and not erode. And so, and the more our cells are growing, the healthier we are, the healthier brain is.
Now, a lot of people would say, hey, John and Joe, that's great, but Joe goes too far. He exercises too much. What are our thoughts on that?
Well, the thoughts, the Tour de France cyclists, they were very, very, very interested in just that issue, and everybody always brings it up. And they are in pretty damn good shape, right? And they were measuring their cortisol when they started spilling cortisol, because if you're in really good shape, you're not spilling cortisol, and cortisol is great because it gives you more energy, etc., but it also tears down the cells. So you don't want to spill it if you don't need to. Well, they found that if about an hour and a half of steady, really hard exercise, and these guys being in really great shape, right? And their cortisol was not elevated. But when they hit that number, when they hit a minute and 15, a minute and a half, then they started dumping more cortisol. So they knew that they had to rest and recovery, which is the best way of thinking about muscle growth. That's what muscle growth is all about, right? I mean, it's not about just stressing the muscle. It's about recovering and repair. Well, the same thing happens with our brains, and to keep our brains going. So you can overdo it, and people do, but then you're not really living by what our bodies need and should have. I mean, even when you're running huge races, there's hopefully there's time to catch a break and stop and repair and then go on.
So based on the studies, it sounds like somewhere between an hour 15 and an hour 30 minutes per day.
Could looking at trees speed your recovery from surgery? I'm Dr. Matt Dawson with Wild Health, Spartan's official healthcare partner. There's a fascinating study of patients who had gallbladder surgery where they randomized them to either having a window where they could see trees or not. And the ones that had that minimal exposure to nature actually recovered more quickly from their surgery. And it doesn't take much. Just 15 to 20 minutes a day, 3 days a week, can increase natural killer cell function, improving your immune system, decrease your risk of heart attack, stroke, depression, anxiety, and even have an effect on attention deficit disorder. Studies have shown that more intense exposure in more wild places for longer times has a bigger impact, but you really don't have to have that. If you live in a city, just getting out in a park can have an effect. If you've got time and have a coffee break or a phone call, take it outside. Just turning off your device, which is kind of like anti-nature, can have a positive effect as well. And if you do have time to plan something bigger, you're going to get a great benefit from it. Just getting out, exposing your senses is going to be fun, enjoyable, and you'll get great health benefits from it.
Wild Health, the official healthcare provider of Spartan.
It sounds like somewhere between an hour 15 and an hour 30 minutes per day.
Well, no, not per day. No. That's in one bolus. It's in one event, one bout. You can rest up and go again. But in terms of what is the ultimate health is probably around that. I mean, these don't forget, these are people going all out. These are not just walking.
At 90%, you could do about 90 minutes, and then you need a break.
Yeah, you need the break. Yeah,
got it. So I'm thinking about my boys who wrestle, and my girls play soccer, and they work out in the morning and at night. And those workouts are about an hour in the morning and then 2 hours at night. And I read a bunch of studies that children that work out in the morning before school tended to do better in school. Does that make sense?
It's all in my book. Yes, it makes a lot of sense. And because what you're doing is the biggest problem with kids in school these days is sleep deprivation, because of their phones and too much stimuli that we have to keep us going and keep us addicted. So they're staying up too late. They're not getting enough sleep. And when you begin to exercise in the morning, you're turning your brains on, so you're raising your alertness and your awareness level, and we need that. We need that, and kids need that more. But also, you're turning your brain cells on. You're turning your attention system on. I've written 4 books about the attention deficit disorder, but the attention system mainly, and it's important to jazz that up, and you do by exercising, and that keeps you focused throughout the day. It prepares you for all kinds of issues coming up. It makes you more positive. Your talk about having a higher purpose. Part of that is generated by your brain cells releasing good stuff, not just antidepressant hormones or neurotransmitters, but all kinds of hormones that we have that really support us. And the more we have of this, the more we're able to press through adversity.
Let me just see if I check all the boxes here. Make sure I'm living my life, and all of us listening are living our lives the right way. We would wake up early, and now some people, they work at night or whatever, so they have to adjust accordingly. But the majority of us, you would wake up early, you'd get exercise in, outdoors, indoors, does it matter?
Oh my God, outdoors is way best. Is the best way to exercise, because you have to see the best thing. The whole point about exercise is you're using your brain cells. You're stressing your brain cells, and that's what you want to do. And outside is way more than inside. Plus, you get the glorious benefits of being out in nature, like behind me. This is glorious because nature gives us even more of a bang for our buck when we're moving in nature.
So wake up early, get a bunch of exercise done outside, ideally, somewhere between an hour 30 minutes.
That would be what I would recommend. Yeah.
Do we like the idea of breaking a sweat?
Oh yeah, for sure. You want to stress yourself to the point where you're working, not just meandering around. You want to get. The studies show that if you get into your heart rate training zone, whatever that is in each individual, that's probably the where you're hitting all the sweet spots in terms of getting all the stuff into your brain that's going to help you throughout the day or throughout your life.
All right. Now, later in the day, we're out with friends. Do we want to eat ice cream and have a couple of Jack Daniels and maybe some Xanax, or do we want to stay clean?
Well, talk about leading question. My God. Civilization has made us unhealthy, not only letting us sit all the time, but giving us all the tools to damage our bodies and our brains. And you just listed a few, the French fries and cheeseburgers and Jack Daniels and ice cream and all those are tasty and good. I mean, we're made to go for them. We're given these. Part of what we inherited from the hunter-gatherer period is what we call thrifty genes, which are great, but they make us go for the high caloric food. That's why we love it, and they also can make us want to preserve all those calories in us for the future, because we might be starving tomorrow, right? The thrifty genes. But we have to overcome that, and that's where you have your destinations. I'll call your whole Spartan Race is a series of destinations, right? And that's where we, going off your initial talk about that, that's where you want to go. That's where you want to be. You want to be headed to something. Purpose.
You want to be headed to something. You want to avoid the poisons, which we're naturally disposed to go after, it sounds like, because of the high calories. You want to work out outside. You want to get that 90 minutes in. You want to break a sweat. I assume you want to drink a lot of water, too.
Sure. You want to hydrate. You want to keep that. You keep the pump that you're talking about, your swimming pool pump going and functioning ideally, as best you can. That's what you want to do. And you want to do it with friends too. You want to do it with a group, because that is both in making you feel more purposeful, but also it'll keep you at it. And that's why all these groups have thrived, like CrossFit and is the latest, right? But before that it was running group and the biking groups and swimming groups and all that. But Spartan training together, that's one, and certainly marathon training, all that stuff that happens today is in your kids playing, with wrestling and with soccer, great stuff, and team building and learning all those social skills, but having a person involved. It's just like dance. Dance is probably one of the best, if not the best, exercise to do, because you have to think about it. You listen to music. It takes you along, so you'll come back to it. But you often have another person or a group that you're dancing with. And that's a lot of material for the brain to pay attention to. So, and again, the more you excite your brain, the more you use your brain, the more you stress your brain cells, the more they're going to grow when you stop and you get into the repair and recovery mode. And so that's why I talk about in Spark, all those things, outside, with somebody, stressing yourself, thinking about what you're doing when you're doing it. I mean, and we have studies showing that promotes your brain to be better.
I love it. And so for those people out there that still are stuck on the couch, eating popcorn, watching Netflix, what do you suggest they do? How do we get them moving?
Well, the best way is to start. The best way is to join something. Join a group. I mean, what is it? Meetups for walking groups, or that's at the base level, right? Or on Netflix, but also the digital world has allowed us to connect with people, right? And so you can connect to something that you might like when we had the COVID shutdown here, my wife and I got into Zumba dancing. I mean, I am not a dancer, but boy, did I tried. We have a Zumba group right in the Central Park that 30 women are dancing every 4 days a week. And they let me in on Fridays because they only do one dance and they break it down so I can, I can handle that. So.
You just gave me an idea. If you were president, I was vice president. I'm taking creative license there. I could be vice president alongside you. I would whisper in your ear and say, we should have a policy that for every dollar of advertising that the pharmaceuticals spend, they have to donate $1 for marketing exercise and wellness. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Right. Well, the big problem with wellness in all the groups that have been there, and I've been involved in it now for 40 years, is that we don't have any centralized power, and we don't have the guys to go around and push the legislators to do what you're talking about.
We don't have a lobbyist.
Yeah, we don't have the lobbyists. We don't have those people on W Street or whatever it is in Georgetown, and so we need wellness warriors to legislate for wellness, for paying attention to what's happening in the schools, what's happening in in the community, to really encourage people to get moving and to stay moving and to stay with it. And to enjoy the movement. When we're moving, we enjoy it.
Maybe what I'll do is I'll get a listing of 300 wellness warriors like you, and we'll try to create a spark in Washington, and we should have lobbyists. You're right. We should have. Too bad we don't have Jane Fonda and Jack LaLanne. That would have done it.
Yeah, you need somebody to embrace it. I mean, all the movie stars, all the big athletes, they love. I mean, they may not love it, but they're really doing their exercise. Come on, it's just part of the deal. They have to be at that high performing level, but they don't turn that to the crowd. They don't turn that to people, all the followers. The followers just want to listen and imbibe and take in the stuff, but they don't want to emulate. I mean, look at LeBron James. Let me just talk about him for a minute. When he saw Kobe train in the USA, for the Olympics the first time, he couldn't believe that Kobe got up for an hour before they went into training to train himself, and that's why Kobe was Kobe. Because he was into it, and he loved it, and he did it, and he pushed himself. And so that changed LeBron's life, and he started doing that. Started really getting serious, not just what everybody said you had to do, but what you then wanted to do even more. And I'm from Cambridge, so Tom Brady comes to mind, keeping in shape with him, somebody who's always in the gym, always doing it.
Well, it's like I guess the saying would be, are you a visitor or are you a participant, right? Like if you're a participant, you're in there early, you're getting it done. Doc, do you have an opinion on like strength versus cardio versus the endurance stuff, or is it all good?
It's all good. It's the easy answer. It's all good. It's just that we have more evidence from animals with cardio stuff than we do with strength training, because it's hard to get a rat to lift weights. But we're doing it now, and we also know that doing strength training it gives you about the same bang for your buck as does cardio. Cardio is still a little better, but strength training gives you a little on its own.
I love it. I years ago, 1990, I created the prison workout where I combined weight training with cardio. So I was moving weights around fast, no wasted time, and it's probably the best I ever felt in my life, the best I ever looked. So that combination, if you could figure out how to get the rats to do that, yeah, they'll have six packs.
Well, I could go into that a little bit. I mean, they have devised like a ladder for the rats to climb, and then they tie weights to their tail to try and look at them using strength training. But anyway, it's all great stuff. So, but I applaud what you've done, and and yes, no, you did not hire me. You didn't have to. I've seen it in my patients and in my friends, how what you've done has been very, very useful. So
thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
Hey, Doc, I'm going to come visit you in Hawaii. You're awesome. I thank God somebody with a brain is joining our message. So this is great.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Trifecta. Trifecta delivers delicious, macro-balanced meals directly to your door. Use the code Spartan at trifectanutrition.com to save 40% off your first meal plan order. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by the Exogen Ultrasound Bone Healing System. Exogen is a non-invasive treatment option that can help heal your broken bone. To learn more, visit exogen.com/Spartan. Maximize energy, optimize nutrition, and improve performance with Wild Health. Personalized precision healthcare built for Spartans. You'll get a personalized health plan based on your DNA and biometrics and the support of a team of health experts. Sign up at wildhealth.com with the code Spartan10 to save 10%.